Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Focus on DatoCMS course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Feel free to send me any questions, comments, emails with ideas, whatever you like. I'd love to hear from you. Today, I'm going to show you how to work with roles in DatoCMS, specifically how to create a custom role. We're talking about role inheritance. We're going to cover a bunch of stuff. And then how to use that to implement your content governance, right? So we're going to be covering a whole bunch of stuff. So why don't we jump in and get started? Let me arrange my screen here just a little bit. For those of you watching live that have any questions, please type them in the chat. I will answer them as I get them. So let's go ahead and show my screen here. All right, perfectly. Let's go ahead and we can close this up here. All right, let's start with Miro. And what I want to talk to you about, first of all, it's the concept of roles and the hierarchy of roles in DatoCMS, because you need to understand this before you can go ahead and design your governance and roles to support that governance. So having said that, we start out way at the top with DatoCMS, and then we're going to jump into DatoCMS and you'll see where all of this is in there. But at the top level, you have an account owner. So in this case, it's going to be me. And the account owner has access to projects. So think of DatoCMS as the actual headless CMS. And then within it, you can create multiple projects. Now, each of those projects, you can see here, project 1 and project 2, right? You can name them whatever. You'll see in my case, I have headless creator and test project. But for each of these projects, you can have environments. So you have multiple environments, right? So I have a master environment and a staging environment. Now, environments is where you have your entries, assets, and workflows. So that means that staging environment could have the exact same thing, or it could have different entries, or it could have different workflows or different assets. Now, having said that, roles, where do roles fit in? Well, roles fit in at a project level. So you have what they call roles, and then you have collaborators. So if we go here, oh, I think I moved it by mistake. If we go here, you have collaborators that belong to a role. So collaborator is just a user, right? A user that you give access to on the system, but you assign users to projects, okay? That's where you're assigning users, which means that I can assign myself or collaborator to project 1, but not to project 2. And you do that at the global role level. That's where roles come in, and you have project permissions. We're going to go into what kind of things you can do. Currently, there are 2 default roles. You have an admin role and an editor role. It comes with that. Then, depending on your license level in DatoCMS, you can create custom roles, and they limit how many custom roles you can create. So you talk to your CSM and see what that's like. But basically, you can create custom roles, and it depends on your licensing level, how many you can create. Now, for each custom role right here, remember, roles belong to a project. So I can have a role here, and I could have a different role at this project, and assigned collaborators to a role in project 1, but not to project 2. Now, in roles, you can configure project-wide permissions, environment access permissions, environment permissions themselves. So in other words, this is which environment do they have access to, and this is what are the permissions within that environment. And then there's the build permissions. That's for your developer, like for creating the code. Now, one step, it looks below, but it's a one-to-one relationship, is you have content permissions. But what happens is, remember, roles are at the project level. But at the environment level, you can assign content permissions that says what kind of content models, content types do they have access to? And not only what kind of content types do they have access to, but what can they do? Can they delete entries in there? Can they add entries? Can they only work with their own entries? That happens at the environment level. So I can have a role, which you'll see pretty soon. In fact, let's do that. Let's get into, let me show you we're going to be creating a couple of roles. We're going to create a blogger role, and we're going to create a data manager role. And I'll explain what those are in just a second. But you can have a role, like a blogger role, that in the master environment, they can delete certain content type entries. But in a different environment, they can't. And that's why the content entry level permissions are set at the environment level, whereas the roles cover global project permissions. Now, don't worry about it. All of this is going to make sense in just a minute. We're going to jump in and do it. But I do want to cover one thing. So just remember, account owner is at DatoCMS level. Roles belong at the project level, and content permissions belong at the environment level. Very easy to remember. You have that hierarchy, and then you have two default roles, admin and editor, and then from there you can build other roles. And collaborators, they're just users. That's all it is. So keep that in mind. All right, so having said that, there is one more thing I want to tell you, and that is inheritance. They have the ability to have a role, for example, have an editor role, and then create another role, in this example, a blogger role that inherits from editor and could override or give additional features or permissions, or block certain permissions. So you can say, look, a blogger will have everything that an editor has, but I also want them to do X, Y, Z. Now, a translator will have everything that a blogger has, but only to this locale. So then they can have access to everything that a blogger has, but only for the Spanish locale, let's say. And that's kind of neat, because then you can just change, you can manage most of your permissions up here, and they will be inherited all the way down with, as you go down, certain permissions that are overriding the permissions above it. So, you know, kind of like object-oriented programming kind of thing. Okay, so that's inheritance. So remember, just to recap real quick, we have an account owner, we have roles at the project level, we have content permissions at the environment level, and then roles can inherit from other roles. Once you figure that out, you're good to go. Okay, so let's make sure I covered everything. So what I'm going to do before we jump into what we're going to do today, I want to show you where you find all this. Alrighty. I'm going to make sure I'm showing the right thing, and I'm going to take a little bit of sip of water here. All right, so where do you find roles? If you go into, normally you'll be in content, and you have to be an admin for this, obviously. But go to settings, and under settings, you will find there's three things you want to be aware of. Is you have roles right here. This is where you create roles. So you can add roles, and we're going to go through this in just a minute. Then you have collaborators. Those are your users that you assign, and you can see how you can assign a role. Right now we only have two roles, and this is a regular user. So this isn't me. I'm a admin user right here. You'll see when I switch, I can switch here. That is my regular user, but we're going to get back to that in just a minute. And then you have content permissions. And again, you click on the role that you want to assign content permissions from. Now, when you go into roles and you select, let's say, admin, right here, it says record and asset permissions. When you click on that, it's taking you to the same place as here. So those are the three places to create and manage your roles, your permissions, your collaborators. Okay, so all right, keeping that in mind, what are we going to do today? I want to introduce you. I want to show you here under content. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 content types. One where we have an article. I'll show you real quick. It's just an article with an author right here. And for example, I can delete that. I can create a new author or choose an author from the library, right? We have the author content type where you can create more authors. We have a state content type where all I'm doing is creating a state with a 2-code ID, so to use somewhere, doesn't matter where. And then we have a country content type where it's just a name and I just create a whole bunch of country entries. That's it. Very simple. We have 4 content types. So what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to create 2 roles. First of all, the first role is going to be a blogger role. Now, what is a blogger role going to do? Well, let me make this bigger here. First of all, you can see that I'm going to say, look, the blogger role will be based off of the editor role. So whatever the editor can do, I want the blogger to do. However, having said that, I want the blogger to have access to article and author content types only. They cannot have access to country and state. I don't want them even knowing that those exist. And I do want them to have access to assets. However, at the article level, they can view all articles. It doesn't matter who created the article. But they can only create, edit, and delete their own articles. At the author level, I don't want them to create any kind of new authors. They can only view and pick an author when they create an entry. At the country and state, we said we don't want them. That's why in red, they shouldn't even exist. And at the asset level, they can view all assets, but they can only delete or edit anything that is theirs. That's it, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and implement that. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna move this over just a little bit so that way. All right, so let's do this. We'll switch here and we're gonna go into settings, remember. We're gonna, first of all, collaborators, I'm set as an editor right now. So I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna switch here. I switched to, this is the regular user. So you can see, maybe I make it a little bit bigger for you. Let's see if that's a little bit better. Yeah, I think that's a little better. You can see right here that I see everything. I see article, author, state, country. I see everything. And remember, if we go back to here, we don't want to see everything, right? We only want to see article, author. We don't want to see country and state. So what's the first thing we need to do? Let's go back to here, is we need to hide state and country. All right, so let's do that. So we'll go here, we'll go ahead and switch here. We're gonna go to, first of all, roles. I'm gonna create a new role, and remember, we're calling it blogger. And remember, we said it's gonna inherit all the permissions from editor, okay? That's all I'm gonna do, just do that. I'm gonna click on save. Okay, now we have a new role called blogger. We're good to go right now, first step. Second step, I'm gonna go to collaborators, and I'm going to switch the regular user to a blogger. Now that user is a blogger. Now nothing will change because if I go back here and I hit refresh, I'm still going to see everything because the blogger has the same access as an editor, which this user was before. We didn't change anything. All we did is said the blogger will inherit editor permissions. Good to go. So let's go back. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go into roles. We're not going to change anything at the project level. So the blogger, all the project permissions remain the same. They're coming from the editor. But we are going to change permissions for records and assets. Now, I want you to keep in mind that I have two environments. Primary, right here, and I have staging. So remember that content permissions affect only the environment, not the project level. So that means that whatever I create here, if I switch environments, these permissions will not go to that environment, unless of course you made a copy of that environment, but that's a different story. So what do we need to do? Let's go back here, and we know that we need to hide country and state. So we know that in editor, if we go back to editor, right here, asset permissions, and you can see record permissions. They have access to all assets and they can do anything on any record. It doesn't matter content type. They can do anything. Let's overwrite that. We'll go to blogger. First of all, we're going to add a model and we're going to say, let's see, which one do we want it to hide? Let's make sure. We want to hide country and state. So we're going to add country. Now, I'm going to add a new rule called deny because everything is permitted, but I want to deny something. So what am I going to deny? I'm going to deny for country, everything. I'm going to add another model called state. I'm going to add a rule called deny. And I'm going to say they can't do anything on these two. So let's save this. Let's go back to the user. We'll hit refresh. And let's see what happened. There you go. Article and author. All right, step number one, We've hidden those two content types. The user knows nothing about those two content types. Perfect. We're done with step number one. Let's move on to the next step. The next step is let's tackle assets. They can delete or edit anything that's theirs and view all assets. So we'll go to assets here, and we know that an editor can do anything to assets. So a blogger, we're going to have to start denying. So we're going to say add. Now, unfortunately, I don't know why, you have to add an allow rule before you can add a deny rule, and not even have an allow rule. So I think this may be a bug. If DatoCMS is watching, you might want to check this out. But if I do this, now I can go ahead and do a deny rule and remove the allow. So I think that's a quirk with the UI here. Okay, so I'm going to say, we said that they can view everything, so they already have access to everything. But I'm going to say they can create new assets. We're good with that. Edit metadata on assets. We'll say deny for other users. Add new rule. Another deny. Delete assets of other users. Deny. Edit creator on assets, other users. Deny. Replace, rename assets, other users. So what am I saying here? I'm saying let them do everything except edit metadata on assets, delete assets, edit creator on assets, and replace, rename assets if those assets were created by other users, not themselves. Because I didn't do anything else, and I have at the editor level, I have let them do everything, view will be available for all assets. So let's go ahead and test it out, and hopefully this works. I just saved it. So now let's go back to here. We'll go to media. There is an image that I created it as an admin. So if I click on this, you can see, oh, it looks like it's letting me edit. That shouldn't happen. So let's go back and see what happened. Let's go back here. Let's make sure asset permissions. This role, yep, it did. And it worked. It actually worked before. So let's see what happened here to make sure we're good. We'll do it again. We'll go to content permissions, blogger, asset permissions. And we are, as an editor, we're allowing all actions on assets. But as a blogger, we're going to go ahead and deny, replace, rename. Let's see, is there something else that we need to deny that I didn't? Any actions? Create new assets, edit metadata on assets. Oh, maybe I didn't have that. Oh, I didn't have that. Okay, other users. I guess I didn't have that one. I missed that role there, or that permission. Let's save that. Let's go back. Of course, you know, during presentations, stuff like that happens. So we'll hit refresh. And let's go back into the media. And now we can't edit anything. You can see that we can't edit it. Let's try deleting it. Right here, it says delete. We'll click on delete, but it should say currently don't have enough permissions. So that's been taken care of, but I can still see the asset, which is nice, because that means that I can go to my content, article, and then select it to add it, but I can't change it. I can't edit it. Right now, I can add new article, a new image. So let's do this. Instead of adding a brand new image, what I'm going to do, because what you could do, if I go to media, we'll select that. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit image. Now you're wondering, well, why is it letting you edit that image? They shouldn't let you edit. Well, it's letting me edit it, but when I click on save, it's actually going to make a copy. It won't edit that particular one. It won't let me do that. So now what happened was, let's see if it did it. Oh, let's go back here. Yeah, there it is. So there is the edited image. Now, if I click on this, now I'm able to edit it. Why? Because I created it, right? It's not other users, I created it. So this is working fine. We'll go ahead and put pizza, pepperoni pizza. All right, we'll click on save. And of course, I can delete it without a problem. That wouldn't be a problem. Okay, so we've taken care of, let's go back to here. We'll go back to this. We've taken care of hiding these and the assets. They can view anything and they can create new entries or new assets and delete and edit their own. Good. So let's take on author. It's the easiest one right now. We'll take on author. What do they need to do? They need to only view. They can't do anything else. So let's go into here under records. We'll say add model author. And what are we going to do? Right now they have, remember, at the editor level, they can do anything to author, right? So we're going to add a deny rule. We're going to delete this. We're going to say, we're not going to deny view. We're going to leave that because that's coming from editor. So we're going to say create, yeah, we don't want him to create. So we deny that. We'll add another rule that says edit. Well, they can't edit if created by other users. Actually, no, they can't edit at all. They can't edit anything. Deny rule, basically we got to do it for everything, right? Publish and publish, add deny rule, delete, add deny rule, edit creator, add deny rule, edit creator, move to stage, and then this one, take over. Yeah, so I think that covers everything. So we're not allow them to do anything, but because we didn't say the view, right? You remember you can select view. We're allowing that because that's coming from the top now. And I think it just removes something. Let's make sure we got it right. View assets, create new assets, yeah. Oh, it took me to the above. Sorry about that. Let's get rid of that. Just seems like a little quirk on the UI there. Okay, there we go. We're good to go here on the author. Can't create, can't edit creator, take over, publish, unpublish, delete, and move, but they can view. So let's click on save. And now let's switch. Let's go back to here. And we'll go to content. We'll go to author. We can see, let's see what happens. Can we edit? Huh? Still allows me to edit. Let's go back. Something happened there. It shouldn't allow me to edit, right? So let's go back. We'll go back here. And let's, to be safe, let's hit refresh here. Something happened there. Maybe it didn't save properly or something. This is fine. This role, we said they can't do this. Author right there. Move to stage. Create, duplicate, edit. On records, model author. Cannot create, cannot edit creator, cannot take over. Should be fine. I'm not sure why. And this is by anyone. This is by anyone. So let's do this real quick. We'll save that. And we'll go back to anyone and save it just in case. And let's make sure collaborators are still, yep, still a blogger. So we'll go back to content permission, blogger. There's my author. Yep, okay, let's switch and see if that worked. Okay, here we go. We're back here. We'll hit refresh. We shouldn't see that new record button up there. Okay, we don't see now the new record button. So let's click on, yeah, there you go. I don't know, maybe, I think there may be a timing issue that happens by the time you click save, or maybe it's a caching issue when I have to do a hard refresh. So, but anyway, you can see, I can see author, but I can't create or edit. I did that on purpose, right? If I go to article now, under author here, if we remove this, I only get from library. I don't get create new one. And I can only choose. There's nothing else I could do, right? So let's go back. Let's go back here and let's see. We've implemented assets, we've hidden these, we've implemented this. The final thing now is article. Article, I want to allow the viewing of all articles. It doesn't matter who created the article. Let an author view it. However, they can only edit, right, the CRUD, their own articles. So they can, create, rename, update, delete. So let's go into content permissions, and this we're talking about articles. So we know that it's going to be, let's close this up, another record. Now this one you may be asking, well, what's any record? This is a allow or deny rule for any record regardless of content type. This one is for specific content types. So now I'm going to go article. And remember, they have access to everything because the editor gives them access to all content types and all entries. So I need to provide a deny rule to implement. I don't want them to do anything, any create, edit, or delete that is not theirs. So let's go back. We'll add no, we won't add that. We'll add a deny rule. View, we're going to allow them to view, but we're going to deny and edit if created by others. We're going to deny a publish and publish if created by others. We're going to deny a delete if created by others. We're going to deny a edit creator if created by others, not other roles, but others. Deny, move to stage, and finally a takeover. I don't know why it moves it up like that. Okay, so we're denying a whole bunch of stuff, but we're allowing the viewing of any content or any entry, regardless if we created it, because we didn't do a deny view. And then they can create their own stuff. They can edit, create, and all that because we didn't do a deny create, right? We didn't do that. So let's save this. Okay, it's saved. Maybe we'll count to 5 seconds. And let's switch. All right, so we're here now. And for those of you watching live, if you have any questions, type them in the chat. I'll answer them as I get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh here. In fact, I should do a hard refresh. Well, let's see if it worked. All right. So here's an article. You can see I cannot edit this article. I can view it, but I can't edit it. Step number 1, done. Perfect. So let's create a new record. Remember, I didn't deny the creation of a new record. So I'm going to go, this article was created by the regular user. And then I can upload new images or select current ones, right? I'm going to do the pizza. Who doesn't like pizza? In fact, who doesn't like pizza? That's what the blog article is about. And I can only select I can only select the authors that were created, basically. So I'm going to select Marcelo in this case. I'm going to click on save, publish, and now it's published. So now if we go back to articles, you'll see 2 articles. This one is the one created by the admin. I can't access it. I can't edit it, but I can view it. And then this one is the one created by me. I can, of course, change the URL, change the title, change everything, right? Okay, so if we go back, let's save this. Let's go back now to here. If we go into content, you should be able to see the same thing, article. Now look at this, because I'm an admin, I have access to everything, right? I can edit the very first article or the article created by the user because I'm an admin, have access to everything. Okay, so we've created that. Now, what we want to do is create for another user, they're going to manage the creation of author, state, and country, right? We want a particular user that is, we'll call him a content admin or whatever you want to call him. I'm going to call him a data manager. They have access to author, state, and country and can only manage those. So that means that what do we need to do? We need to, if we go back here, let's switch here. We're going to inherit from editor, but we're going to hide article. In fact, I should do here so you have it, article, do not show, right? We'll put that as red. And they can see country, state, and author. And assets also do not show, so we're going to put that in red. So first of all, let's start with article and assets. Let's just do that. That's going to be the easiest thing. So again, remember settings. We'll go to roles. We're going to create a new role. This role is going to be called Data Manager. The role inherits permissions from editor. We're going to leave it like this. We're going to click on save. Next step is we're going to go to collaborator because I only have one user for testing. So I'm going to change this person now to a data manager. So now they're a data manager. Now I'm going to go to content permissions for data manager. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to hide article and assets. We want to deny that. So for assets, because it is inheriting from editor, it's allowing everything. But I'm going to go, you can allow everything, but now, again, the deny rule is blanked out, but you can just do this, then delete. I'm going to say, I'm denying any access to assets. Click on save. So let's go test out. We'll test one thing at a time, right? To make sure it's working. We'll go here. So now we'll hit refresh. Media should be gone. Media is gone. So step one is good. Of course, they have access to everything. Why? Because we just created a new role for them, right? But media is gone. So we're good on that. Let's move on. We'll go back to here. And then step two, we said article. Let's remove articles. So we go into record permissions. We'll say model, article. We'll say add new rule, deny. We'll go, they can't do anything in here. We'll click on save. Okay, let's go back to the other one. Let's test this out. Here's article. We should, it should be gone now when I hit refresh. Author, state, country, perfect. So we have the three content types that we want, and we have no media. So let's go back. So we took care of this, and then country, state, and author, all access. We don't have to do anything else, right? That's it. Because it's inheriting from editor, and editor is giving them all access to any content type except the ones that we just denied. So if we go back, the data manager will now be able to update the author, maybe create a new author, John Smith, create the new author. They can go into a state, update those states, or create a new state, and we'll call it New York. I don't know if I already put that in there, but it's okay. Yeah, I did. That's okay. Duplicate. And then create a new country. Obviously, you can edit the country, right? We'll do that. Argentinasa. Then we'll do that. So you can see that the new data manager role now has access to what we said should have access. Okay. Let's go back here. So that pretty much covers everything. The last thing I wanted to show you is inheritance, right? We haven't touched, we haven't played with inheritance beyond the fact just saying that this role inherits from the other role. Let's do the following. Let's go ahead right now. Let's go back here. I'm going to show you. Right now, you can see that the author has access, the data manager has access to these three, but only one environment. So which environment do they have access to? And an environment appears up here, okay? You'll see in just a second. Let's switch. So if I go back here, you can see I have, because I'm an admin, I have access to my environments. So let's go to, instead of going into Data Manager and Blogger, because I want to give both of them access to both environments, instead of going here and changing, actually not under content permissions, my apologies, under roles, instead of going to roles, Blogger, and then under environment, changing this to all environments, and then Data Manager, and changing this to all environments, what I'm going to do, because remember, they both inherit from editor, it's a simple update. I'm going to go to editor. I'm going to say right now it says on primary environment only. I'm going to say on all environments. We'll do that. We'll click on save. Now let's go back to the other. We're back here. Still empty. Let's refresh. You should see a new pull down here. And there we go. So now this author, that's inheritance, right? We updated editor because the other two custom roles inherit from editor. They just got all the new permissions. In this case, they can select a different environment. Now, of course, what's going to happen? Keep this in mind. Look at this here. We have author, state, country. What happens if we switch environments? Now they have different content types, and they even have access to article. Well, why is that? Well, first of all, this was a copy that I made before I changed content types. That's number one. But number two, and more importantly, how come the permissions didn't pass through into this environment? Because remember, if we go back, entry-level permissions or content permissions happen at the environment level. And we've only set those up in the master, not in staging. Now, if you would have made a copy after we set them up in staging, then they would have copied over, but we didn't. So keep that in mind, and that's why it's important to understand the difference between project level permissions and content permissions at the environment level, okay? All right, so I hope that gave you a good overview of, and I'm going, of course, to headlesscreator.com to remind you, get your free account. But I hope that gave you a good overview of how custom roles work in DatoCMS and how you can use inheritance and custom roles and content permissions to create your content governance and implement it so that way you can control who does what with content. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did putting this together. I enjoyed it. It was fun working with all these, and sorry for the couple of times that I thought it worked, but it didn't. But when in doubt, hit refresh again. It should do it. Anyway, again, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed it. And there's going to be many more focus on DatoCMS lessons, so stay tuned for that. So until the next one, have a great one, everybody. Cheers.